Well, as billed by you a moment ago, Gillian, let's speak to Errol Moorcoach. He's a spokesman with the Republicans Overseas UK. Good morning, Errol.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. What have you made of these impeachment proceedings then?
Well, I mean, I guess it's a bit of political theater. It's made for some daytime viewing, but ultimately, the situation we see is a waste of time and money. If this was a pre-planned attack, then how was it incited on the spot by the president? If every politician who were to give a firebrand speech to a group of political partisans was to be prosecuted in this way, we would have very few politicians left. Again, his First Amendment rights, as you guys were talking about with the last guest, are central to the situation. So ultimately, this is an effort to disenfranchise him and his voters. They need 67 votes to convict him. The House managers have not proved the case of high crimes or misdemeanors. They've alleged incitement, yet they have not remotely come close to demonstrating the law that has been violated to constitute such incitement. Now, they have verbiage that implies that the president is responsible for everything under the sun, and they've been doing this since he was elected. Besides, of course, leaving out of the peaceful protest, the calls for a peaceful march down to the Capitol, having the people's voice heard. Instead, they spent 90% of their time showing really powerful videos of the despicable and condemnable attack on our Capitol, and every violent criminal there, along with those who murdered those Capitol Hill police officers, should be, put in jail for a long time. But those people don't represent the Republican Party, nor do they represent the 73% of American counties or 75 million some odd people. That's the big takeaway here. There's a disconnect between what's on trial and his supporters who don't feel that what's on trial even represents who they are. So it's again speaks to that polarized U.S. political climate where there's almost just two lenses and both of them are myopic depending on what side you're on.
Well, one of the arguments that Donald Trump's defense team has put forward is that the storming of the Capitol had been organized before Trump made his controversial remarks, so therefore it was going to happen no matter what he said. But, many of those who took part were self-declared Republican voters and very possibly party members. What does that do for the credibility of the Republican Party now?
Well, I don't think that the actions of fringe individuals in any party are the ones who define where that party goes. We don't look at the far left and point at Antifa individuals who could be registered Democrats, and nobody who's a serious adult would point at them and say that represents President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Sorry to interrupt, but these were people who were addressed by Donald Trump, and he said to them, just before the Capitol was stormed, fight like hell and march on the Capitol.
Well, sure. He said that term "fight," which, as I'm sure you've seen in the Twitterverse, Joe Biden has tweets about "go fight," and Kamala Harris has things about "go fight." And he didn't go say march on the Capitol and storm the steps. He said march down there and have your voice peacefully heard. If anything, what occurred there really hurt any chance, not that they had any chance, but any chance that they had to present their case. As you would remember, Josh Hawley and one of the other, I forgot the guy in the House, had an objection, so they were going to be able to present the election fraud evidence that, once again, even though it wouldn't have changed anything. So all this did was hurt what his own political party members wanted, and never once did he say storm there. He always said peaceful. That's a big part because he's a law enforcement president. Law and order is a big part of what our party stands for, and that wasn't what our party stood for. And Donald Trump, things get out of hand when you get into this sort of populist politics. I think anybody can concede, but it got out of hand all year with the rioting and the burning and the looting. And so when it came down to this, I mean, it sort of is a symbol of the American condition right now as the country grapples with that third decade politics that usually has a lot of change and yin and yang as generational differences and social differences come to a forefront. In a lot of ways, it's healthy that all of these conflicts are on display and being talked about. So hopefully we can build from there.
Okay, thanks for that, Errol. That's Errol Moorcoach there from Republicans Overseas UK. We can also now speak to Chris Carman, Stevenson Professor of Citizenship at the University of Glasgow. Morning, Chris.